Canadian market, but also talking about, how to set yourself apart on processes, a little bit of tips. The question is, are we ready to start pursuing those opportunities? And, what can we do? Just identify, attempt, lock down your dream job. Are you ready for that? So to have that conversation, I want to call to the stage 3 people. So first, Abdullah. He's a cloud architect at LawnStarter. Also, Junio, head of Ubiminds Academy. And lastly, Dr. Mike Stern. He is a Psy.D, Organizational Development Specialist. And to lead this conversation, our talent acquisition lead, Juliana Carrano. All right, and take it away.
Thank you, Danny. I would also like to start saying that with the risk of sounding repetitive, but it is truly a pleasure to be here. I'm very happy to be part of this panel, and just to be part of this amazing event. So I'd like to thank you all once again for being here, and also thank to all of our online viewers. This is the last panel that we're gonna have for the night. And we are going to talk about landing meaningful jobs, how to choose your path. I'd like to start with a saying that I think resonates very well with what we're going to talk about. That goes, luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. So true to this spirit, we are going to move forward from opportunity into preparedness. And we're going to delve and to dig a little deeper into the main challenges that Latin American talent face when, applying for a job with American companies, and how to overcome those challenges so that the candidates can really get that ideal job. With that spirit, I'm going to ask my first question to Junio. So Junio, you are the head of one of Ubiminds' biggest efforts in bringing people closer to meaningful career opportunity. The program offered by Ubiminds, Ubiminds Academy, prepares candidates to cross the main barriers that usually holds people back when applying for an international career. So my question is, what are the main difficulties that South American talent face in recruitment processes and also in their professional development as a whole?
Nice, Juliana. Thank you for the opportunity, and good evening to everybody. I think it's great because it's a great question, because I think a lot of our guests brought here a lot of solutions of the problem. And actually, I don't have background in technical issues, and even my English is a crap, to be honest. And I would say that, but talking about interviewing people is something that I know. I did that in most part of my career, and I had the opportunity to see and participate of the assessment, a bunch of candidates that would like to be part of this great initiative that Ubiminds are doing. So, and I realized that I felt like the most of the guys said here, and the problem is not, I would say that English is the minor problem sometimes, because I see a lot of developers that even care about the opportunity, understand what the company does, and they get prepared for the position, or even understand how to create a good speech and how to engage an interviewee into an interview process, and good talk with that. And what I mean by that, I think that people need to understand the limitations before they start thinking about the improvements. That's the point. And I faced the same that most of guys brought here, like anxiousness, nervousness, how difficult ways to create a good speech and explain, to connect the experience to that new position and something like that.
That's great, and thankfully we have Ubiminds Academy, and we're going to circle back on that a little bit later on the end of this panel, but now I want to go a little bit deeper into how to help people prepare. So my next question is for Mike. So Mike, you have helped hundreds of people advance in their careers over the past 2 decades. So what advice would you give to a candidate that's either overconfident or there is actually lacking confidence in an interview, and how would you suggest that people can find the right balance between not sounding overconfident or like just lacking the confidence maybe because of English or because of technical skills, and how to find this balance during an interview?
Well, I want to first start off by apologizing to Joel for my broken English. And secondarily, offer up, I know a really good psychologist to help with the anxiety that you spoke to. Always trying to drum up some good business. But it is a difficult sort of line to walk in the interview, right? An interview is an opportunity to promote yourself. That's really what we're sort of looking to do. But it becomes a fine line of coming across as arrogant or knowing it all. And if we think about it kind of behaviorally, it looks the same sometimes. A confident and arrogant person both always seems to have the answers for everything. You know, they walk into the room and can kind of you know, spell out exactly what direction to go into. So what we're really trying to do is kind of find that balance. We think of it almost on a continuum, on the one end of overconfidence, but on the flip side, which is equally sort of troublesome in an interview, is underselling yourself, right? So the real kind of balance is being confident, self-assured, somewhere lies in the middle. So there isn't really any sort of secret sauce to doing that. But what you want to do, you know, one of the ways to balance this out is to speak about your strengths, right? But also, you heard the distinguished panelists speak previously about sort of being open to discussing your growth areas. That shows humility, and that kind of sometimes balances out this process. But the human tendency when we try to avoid being overconfident is to undersell ourselves, right? So keep in mind, be mindful of that throughout the process. And if you're going to err on one side, let's go on the promotion side. This is your opportunity to shine, show off your skills, let that confidence comes through. That's the most important part, I would say.
Yeah, that's great. And also, I want to ask a little bit deeper on that, because we know that we have a lot of different cultural aspects between like Brazil and the US, let's say, not only on the way that people are, on the way that we perceive our lives, but also on the way that we approach an interview. So on the way that we ask questions, or on the way that we portray ourselves when we are answering those questions. How we perceive the interviewer and how the interviewer perceives the candidate that is from Latin America. So my question is, I mean, we are always talking about tips, so if you also have some tips for people, so what tips would you give for people from Latin America in general to be successful when being interviewed from someone that's from the US, let's say, taking into account the cultural differences that we have between like those two groups?
Yeah, I think that there are less differences than we perceive in reality. But having worked with Ubi Academy and having mentored and worked with the candidates, I think a couple of primary differences come to mind. I think sort of initially, as a whole, and of course we're stereotyping here, but Americans tend to be sort of more straight to the point. So my experience in working with the Latin American candidates, they tend to sort of be very verbose and you know, provide a lot of context to their stories. And I think sitting on the other end of that as an interviewer can kind of sometimes you get lost in the answer And then oftentimes it becomes even more pronounced when you're trying to kind of compensate for the language barrier. So that's where we talk about kind of the practice and repetition to make sure that you're succinct, right? These are your elevator pitches. The other piece that I think about as a whole is the kind of the Americans are less formal, right? Particularly in an interview setting. So we're not necessarily looking for you to kind of teach us sort of technical skills, and there's a tendency to kind of go down that road where you want to show off your knowledge. That's all these awesome tech leaders spoke about. It's a conversation, and I think that sort of really kind of helps you stay focused and will resonate well with your interviewers. But as with any scenario, every interviewer varies, and every interview process is different. So really kind of gauging who you're interviewing with, doing your research, and kind of reading the room, so to speak, and getting a feel for how you think they're the type of tone that they're looking for. I think another sort of big trait that I find in differences in the cultural is the practice of storytelling. And I think this is probably more a human truism, but we tend to remember things with a beginning, middle, and end, right? And we remember the first part the most, and then the last part kind of equally, and then somewhere in the middle we get sort of lost. And that's where sort of the cultural difference comes in. The middle part in Latin America tends to be much longer, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you get a minute to talk to Alberto afterwards, you'll find that out as well. But it's really kind of being succinct in the storytelling. Think of those experiences, and I got a great tip from Sheila from Ubiminds in working with the Latin American sort of talent. You think of this as almost a marketing exercise. You're really trying to sort of define certain traits that you think the American companies are looking for, and it's universal. You want to, if you're applying for a leadership position, they're going to want to know a story about a time when you were able to negotiate with leadership to do things your way versus the way that your CEO or head of engineering was trying to do, to show that that you have kind of the ability to kind of persuade others, right? Persuasiveness. They're going to want to know that you're agile. So you think of sort of stories where you can tell the ability to be flexible and change on the fly. Think about sort of those stories where you failed and you learned from it. That's the trait of resiliency. So it's really kind of starting with the trait that you're trying to convey to the interviewer, and then working backwards and developing those really tight stories which highlight the examples that you're trying to convey. And then I think another great tip, we often worry about not giving enough detail, and you hear folks about being specific. Start with that kind of tight, succinct elevator pitch style story, and then you can offer, if you like, I can go into more detail. It's a great way to sort of get some feedback from the interviewer. They'll tell you, yeah, tell me more about that, so they can learn kind of some of the specifics. Or if you hear them saying, no, that's good, maybe you went along a little bit too long there, and you can take that as feedback in answering sort of the future questions. And there's all types of, at the risk of sounding sort of repetitive, all types of basic interview etiquette. Don't underestimate that, right? So body language makes a huge difference, and the energy level you heard repetitively, it really can kind of make or break sort of an interview. So don't forget the interview basics as well. And I'll just validate, language is not the barrier most of the time, and ultimately this is about sort of projecting kind of a confidence that you're the right person for the job. It really kind of struck me as a psychologist. I'm invested in people. Obviously, that's kind of where I tend to lean. And you heard very little today about technical abilities. So it really shows the shift in the tech market. We're looking for those folks with good soft skills that can really succeed on a team environment.
That's great. Those are a lot of good tips, and I think that the hard thing is how to do that when you only have like 1 hour to impress the interviewer, right? Because like you need him to get to know you, and you want to showcase your abilities, your technical skills, but also your soft skills. How to do that without sounding overconfident? How do I portray myself? So I think that that's all very good, and that's what I want to ask to Abdullah next. So, Abdullah, you started your career as an electrical engineer, then you moved to become an automation engineer, then a DevOps engineer, and then you made other moves until you became a cloud architect and also a hiring manager. That's a long journey. So you helped to hire top cloud engineers and build strong teams like many times over the years. So my question to you is really focusing on that. Like, if you take all the tips that Mike just gave us, given that, I mean, the candidates really have a short time with interviewers, what traits do you look for when you're interviewing candidates, and what tips can help the candidates to really stand out from the rest?
Thank you, Julia, and good evening, everyone. So we have learned a lot about interviewing and interviewing tips today. So let me structure my answer toward cloud ops for today. And as companies are investing more on development efficiency and network security, cloud automation, there is a continuous demand for cloud automation engineer or cloud engineer. So what we look for in a cloud engineer? One of the key area that we look for is energy, the passion, the drive. As Randy well mentioned in previous discussion, it's like this candidate showing the interest in problem solving, showing the interest in technology, showing the interest in automation. Does this candidate have the willingness to learn something new, learning new, and and furthering their career? So career driven. So these are the qualities that stands out. So so energetic, passionate, and this actually helps us understand hey, this candidate is really have the passion. And some of the best engineers I have seen are self-made engineers in my life, and they are simply just passionate about what they do, and they simply showcase that passion through maybe contributing to open source community, maybe solving bugs, or showcasing their projects that they have worked on. So this is one of the area that we look for. Another specific area we look for is the skill set, especially for cloud engineer. Does this engineer have the experience with cloud technology? Does this candidate have the experience with security, infrastructure as a code? What about config management? So these are all the qualities that we look for. And also the SDLC best practices. There is also one of the app methodology that I use is a 12-factor app. So this goes out not only to cloud engineer, but to any engineers. If you want to build software as a service, this is a very good guidelines that actually showcase how to actually build an application. So this is one of the skill set that we look for. Then the next thing that we look for is the cultural fit. As we talked about it previously, it's the communication is the key. So how well this candidate can communicate with the team members, very crucial. How this candidate will have that thought process, the thinking ability, and how can they follow that? So fluidity of that thought. does this candidate have what it takes to be a team player? So being able to collaborate with one another within the team. Another thing is adapting to various working environments. Does this candidate have what it takes to adapt and be fluid? So these are all the qualities that we look for, and I think this is the tip that I can say for like if you want to become a cloud engineer, something that that will make you stand out.
There's something else that I want to ask you, Abdullah, because you mentioned a lot about what are you looking for when interviewing a candidate, and like not taking into consideration any specific position, but are there any deal breakers in your opinion? Something that, if this happens or if the candidate says this and that, maybe that raises a flag for me, like in your opinion, if whenever you're interviewing someone, if there anything that will sound to you like, oh, this is a deal breaker for me, like unfortunately, like I can go on with that.
Yes, I think one of the previous question was like, there are, you will see people from different backgrounds or different fields trying to come to this field also, or trying to change fields to software engineer or cloud ops engineer. So one of the deal breakers is the energetic, the passionate, how passionate they are. And like, I want to see like, they are really is going to be happy on this field when they come. So being energetic, being passionate will drive their productivity, will drive their success. So, and this is what actually attracts me the most.
Yeah. That's great. I mean, I have the next question for Mike. Still talking about like being prepared for an interview. When candidates are preparing for an interview, for example, what aspects of self-awareness or collaboration do you think that the candidates should really focus on?
I'll address the sort of collaboration piece first. I think a simple kind of analogy, and I hope the analogy resonates here in Brazil and Latin America as well, but we're really kind of looking for, can this candidate play nice in the sandbox, right? So when you think back as, a bunch of kids sitting playing with their toys in the sand, are you the type of person that's going to go over and grab the toys from other people, or are you going to join them and get in and help them build the castle sort of together? So it's really sort of about working together, and I think another way to sort of think about this is it's about sort of fitting puzzle pieces together. So that one of the primary reasons why I work with companies is they want me to come in these interviews and help them sort of assess where this person fits in the team dynamic. So we heard the other panel members speak previously about fit, right? Cultural fit. So, not everyone needs to be the same. That's a bad team. We want differences in styles and approaches. I tend to be a loudmouth and outgoing, so I balance very well on a team of introverts, and our skill sets end up complementing each other. So the collaboration piece is how well you're going to get along with the team, and that really kind of ties back to the idea. I believe Joel mentioned it as well, sort of the genuineness. Don't try to be something that you're not, right? That comes across very blatantly in an interview. So if you're not outgoing, you don't have to pretend to be outgoing. But you do want to sort of make sure that you're presenting the best version of yourself, and that's where the practice and repetition sort of comes in. And then I think sort of self-awareness. Obviously, you can spend a lot of money and go to a psychologist and do some analysis and really work that way. But I would say the best tip there is to really sort of be open to feedback. Find yourself some friends that are going to give you honest feedback. You don't want the yes people in your life. Oh, you did great, good job. That's important to hear sort of that feedback. But being open to when folks identify growth areas, not getting offended by it. I think it's a neat process to watch, having worked with Ubiminds and Ubi Academy now for a year and a half, sort of watching them be open to giving feedback to others. And then as a company, I think the level of self-awareness grows. So think about individually finding those people in your life that will be open to giving that honest feedback, and then taking that feedback and learning from it, I think is the best way to grow your self-awareness.
Yes, that's great. And since you mentioned Ubiminds Academy, let's circle back on that right now, as I promised. The first thing that I want to ask regarding the academy is to Junio. We gave a lot of good tips over all 3 panels. We covered a lot of aspects of the whole selection process, the whole interview process for an American company. So how can Ubiminds and also Ubiminds Academy help with this process? If maybe you can tell us a little bit about Academy and how we are here to help the candidates throughout this journey.
Perfect. Ubiminds Academy, it's a mentoring program. It's not just about hard skills mentoring, but it's something that it's an entire journey that starts from, like I said, from the assessment part, when we try to balance the candidates will participate of this mentoring, and ends up with the recollocation, the participant in an international company. It takes a lot of 24 hours, 2 months long, and split it in 2-3 hours a week, with a flexible agenda that fits to the participant and the mentors as well. And based on 3 big pillars, that is hard skills relate to professional experience, and soft skills relate to behavior and cultural aspects, and soft skills relate to language abilities. So then we get everything together and invite the best mentors inside Brazil, outside Brazil, as Mike. And we are so confident with this initiative, and I believe that's the great way that candidates who doesn't know how to get that opportunity outside the country, so join with us through this new opportunity.
And what if someone wants to join? What do they need to do?
So for those who are participate in this initiative, we'll put the link into the chat box for the landing page. For those here present who want to know a little bit more about this initiative, I'll be available after the event to explain a little more about it.
And since we have Mike here, who's one of the mentors in Ubiminds Academy, do you want to comment on something like how has it been, that journey for you? How have you been helping the candidates?
Yeah, at the risk of sounding like an advertisement for the Academy and Ubiminds as a whole, sort of, my involvement is really around their passion, people first. They have a saying, one team, one heart, and it's really sort of embodied, and that's my passion, helping sort of folks achieve their goal. And the courage and resiliency that you guys show in adopting and seeking out an international career with in a different language is inspiring on many levels. So the opportunity to work and kind of help you guys achieve your goals, it does a lot of those warm and fuzzies for me, and that's kind of why I went into the field that I did. So it warms my heart, and it's really valuable experience from both kind of some of the hard skill training. Then there's an element of storytelling, right? We talked about kind of the value of being able to sort of pitch yourself and market yourself. So there's training along there. And then I'll be very candid. All I really do is help you build your confidence. The level of candidates that participate in this academy, the skill sets, the amount of I went to a lot of school, but the amount of education and certifications and years of experience that these candidates have is beyond impressive. So it's just reminding you that your English is good enough and helping you sort of polish your presentation and really supporting you through the journey. And that's what Ubiminds does and Ubi Academy. It's a supportive process to help you meet your goals, and they really mean it. It's, you know, at the risk of sounding corny, it is one of these warm and fuzzy companies, and I think it's really sort of a great way to kind of launch this international career. I can't imagine doing it without us. So.
I couldn't agree more. That was it for this panel. I want to thank you very much to our wonderful speakers, and I think that to sum up like everything that we spoke here today, and also for everybody who is watching, invest in developing the skills that will really, what candidates need to do is really invest on developing the skills that will differentiate you from the rest of the candidates, and also know when you need to like raise your hand and ask for help. Also, that's what we're here for. So that's what Ubiminds Academy does. Like, we are going to help you along the way until your profile meets the expectations that the companies have. And then Ubiminds will find the ideal job for you and guides you throughout the whole selection process. You should and you could definitely count on us for that. That's, I mean, the main purpose of why we are here, why we are hosting this event, is to really help Latin America talent to find and to be able to access those amazing opportunities that international careers offer. And I don't know if we have any questions from the audience while Danny prepares like questions from the online group. We have one right there, Val. Thank you very much.
By the way, thank you to Juliana for, I think, being the best moderator out of the three. So no knock against
I sense a
competition.
Okay, so most of the advice we've heard here was on how to do well on interviews. But to do well on interviews, you have to actually get interviews. And for me as a job seeker, that has been like the most challenging part. And I wanted to know if you guys have any tips on entering those hiring process.
Go to academy.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, me, come to Ubiminds. We'll take care of you. But yeah, no, go ahead, guys.
Well, and I think that the Ubiminds does the hard part of finding those opportunities. So if that's a stuck point, then I think there's an easy sort of solution. And we did speak a lot about interviewing and that being an important part, but it's really an end-to-end support, finding the opportunities, assessing sort of your current skill set, and then helping you kind of grow in those areas. So it really is an end-to-end solution. Great recruiting team, sourcing team. So interviews I don't think are going to be the challenge. And I'll put another sort of plug. The neat part about it is Ubiminds only works with companies that align with their values. So we speak about people first, and you heard the wonderful CTOs and head of engineering. The reason why they work with Ubiminds is there's that alignment. So it's kind of a neat way to make sure that you're going to land in a good company. Yeah,
and we are continuously opening positions with Ubiminds. So, like, if there is a skill set match, definitely I think you will get a call. So I think, having to worry about getting a call for the interview, I think that is not as I mentioned, that's not the main concern. But you have to understand that, Ubiminds is working with companies that actually aligns with the values. And we put people first.
And then I kind of sort of want to reiterate, so self-disclosure, I know Alberto very well. He's a former neighbor of mine, sort of in New York, and he's got, sort of wonderful stories. He's kind of a success story in terms of seeking the international career and really kind of progressing. But it might not be the first interview. It's sort of a consistent, resilient process. I don't know. I forget the number, Albert. Was it like 40 interviews before you hit the big one, or is that exaggerating?
It's exaggerating, but it's...
I do that well. But it's sort of a long journey. The first interview might not be the one, and Ubi will be there to get you plenty of others and kind of help you grow along the way.
Awesome. Ooh, lots of people there. Let's go here. Oh, maybe we lost the mic though. Can we try again? Yeah, go ahead. Nope.
Here you go. I don't need a mic.
Okay. I want to question Abdullah. What do you think about certifications, more especially cloud certification to get a job as an architect cloud?
Yes, so that is a very good question. The question was, what do we think about having the cloud certification for the cloud ops role? Cloud certification is a way to validate what you have learned. So definitely there's a value to it, like, to express, like, hey, to support your understanding, like, on cloud technology or on a specific area. So this is definitely a benefit to you. But on top of that, you have to have other, like, the points that I talked about to complement that, right? Like having that passion, having that experience. Alongside the certification, having the experience also is going to be important and helpful.
Mm-hmm. Abdullah, since you're talking about, certifications, requirements, there was an interesting question in the chat. Do you have any restrictions about age at all? And I think this is general, and, speaking from Ubiminds, we don't, but we'd love to hear from you.
So this particular field, cloud, is changing a lot. So like the technology that have been used previously, people are moving toward more and more modern technology. So age is not the factor. The factor is knowing and staying up to date with the modern technology. Mm-hmm. So this is the important part. So if somebody, despite the age, have the knowledge on the technology that's being used and asked in a company, I think we'll get a chance.
Yeah, perfect. All right. I think there was another hand raised. Yes, Lucas. Oop. Right here in the front. Oh, there you go, it's easier.
I really liked this question that was right here, the first one, about getting that first interview, right? Maybe for folks here that have changed careers before, sometimes you seem stuck on getting that first interview. And I would like to add to that question. Have you guys here in the panels, even us at Ubiminds recruiting, and to the previous panel members, have you guys had stories where someone failed that to get that first interview, that really tried to, and they did some sort of a grind to really focus on any particular skill set or particular field of action that helped them to just get it going, get that jump start, to get that first couple of interviews that sent them on their way?
I remember an example from Ubiminds, actually, that it was somebody that interviewed with us. They didn't have quite the English that was necessary for the position, but, they went back, studied for a couple of months, and they came back again, went through the process, and was, much better the second time. So, took back that feedback, which was, I think, some of the panelists talked about, asking for feedback, and he just applied that and worked on it, and yeah, did so great the second time around. But
and I can add to it. So, as they have mentioned, like, I have went into an interview for both electrical engineering and also in the software engineering, and for the most part, it's like similar process. So I think practice is the key. Practice makes it perfect. So if you have tried for the first interview, it didn't work out, not giving up is the key, right? Think about, look back and say, like, what exactly you missed or what can you improve on, and improve that, like, and practice and go back. I think, practice makes perfect. So once you keep doing it, I think you're gonna get better at it. And that works for all fields that I know I have seen. So practice, just practice.
Yeah, and I would, it's really the drive. I think my best hire was somebody who got passed over for a position for somebody who was sort of more senior, he pestered me. He borderlined, almost too much contact after, asking for feedback. Every time he got a new skill set, contacting me and letting me know, and he didn't ever let me forget him. I've worked with him now for 10 years and can confidently say that's been my best hire. So, what did he show? He showed drive. He showed a commitment to continuous learning. He showed an openness to feedback. So all of those traits that we talked about wanting to share, he demonstrated that in his actions, right? So almost, a difficult balance to sort of walk, but just a drive and a passion. Alberto said it best: if you want something, you'll make it happen. So don't let that first or second time deter you.
Awesome.
Time is up.
Do we have any more questions? So there's one right there.
I would like to know more about technical interviews. I know that we've been talking a lot about soft skills and stuff, but there are some recruitment processes that do require technical interviews, and this can really dismotivate professionals. So if you can give some advice and some motivation for those professionals that need to go through technical challenges and interviews.
You don't want me answering that question because I have no idea.
Either me.
Yeah, so for technical interviews for the relevant field, again, there are a lot of practice questions that are available. You can also, nowadays, sometimes the people will take home technical questions and challenges. So those are the things that, I would look for and try to see, try to solve that and try to understand that. And most of the time, the technical questions will come from the relevant area. So that will also, it's going to be both-sided. It allows the company to think about, will that candidate be able to do what we're looking for? And the same thing is that the position that is suitable for you?
And I think sort of along the lines, demonstrating your thought process and how you got to that solution. So it's not so much the answer, but kind of the journey about how you worked your way towards getting that solution. So, demonstrating your ability to critically think and kind of work through roadblocks or barriers in your own process will help the technical interviews as well.
And one more.
Okay, so I just wanted to know, Abdullah talked a lot about passion. And the thing is, I talked with a lot of software engineers, and I include myself in this, some of them are how's the best way to show passion for your work? Because of course there's LinkedIn, but in Brazil sometimes even we call it LinkedIn Disney because everyone shows their best version there. So as recruiters and as tech workers, how do you think is the best way for a candidate to really show passion about their work?
So that is a good question. So if I tell you a story about myself, so I moved from electrical engineering to software engineering, and it has all to do with the passion. I enjoyed programming, I enjoyed automation, and my passion helped me to learn more and more. So self-teaching and self-learning, all about what I has to offer with the automation engineering, and slowly moved my way up to the cloud. So body language is also important. So how you approach in an interview, and the curiosity to learn and the willingness to learn, as Mike already mentioned, your drive and your energy, these all will contribute to the interviewer knowing more about you. So did that answer your question?
Yeah, I would complement with something take care about your preparation for that, how to know a little bit about the company, the position itself, how it can complement the the objective of the company, something like that.
Absolutely. So knowing about the company, knowing about that field, shows the interviewer that you did your homework and you also understand. And also you're gonna, what interviewer is looking for is you being successful in that field.
I almost have kind of a little different angle on this. This is sort of like dating, right? You're either into the person or you're not. And it's hard to fake it in either direction. So yeah, there's obvious little tips to kind of make them think that you're passionate about it, but aligning your role with the job that you're seeking is the best way for your passion to come across and be genuine. So this is something you can't fake. It goes back to being who you are, only seeking out those opportunities that you really want.
Yeah, and being passionate is not saying that I'm passionate about it, right? So it's about, like, it's gonna reflect, like, you know, when you talk, it's gonna reflect. So being passionate by heart, it will reflect on you.
I just want to add something to that. Having interviewed a lot of candidates, I think that one good tip is be proud of the work that you did. Because when we interview candidates, we want to ask about like the work that they did. We really want to know, we need to know. So be proud of the work that you did. Don't assume that we don't understand what you're saying. Like we do, and we want to know more. So be proud of the work that you did. And also, if you're having trouble, like going back to the other question, if you're having trouble finding that first interview, so you're not even getting the chance to showcase your abilities and your knowledge and everything. So maybe it's a fault of the process itself, it can be. But also maybe it's the way that you're not being proud of your work on your resume. So that's also very important. Like, be mindful about the way that you're presenting yourself even before the interview. When you send your resume, your letter of intent, like whatever is on the selection process. So that's also something, like, be proud of your work before and after and during the interview.
Awesome. Well, I am afraid that is time. But I just wanted to thank the panel again. Thank you so much. Can we have a hand? And I think, yeah, before we close it off, we got a feedback on the chat. It's been a very amazing event, so congrats to all of you guys. I'm not an Ubiminds employee, but it's been a rich experience for myself that already works in international projects. Thanks, guys. Do you agree? Did you learn anything today? Was that good? Yeah? Yes? Yeah? All right. Good. So that's a wrap, but we want to thank you again. This is the first Ubiverse, so it's definitely been an experience for us, and we hope for you too. Thank you for being here. If you feel like you're ready to start your international career, let us know. You can apply on our website. We have the link on the chat as well, or approach one of us. Let's have a chat. Talk to us about your experience. We're happy to do that. If not, we're ready with Ubi Academy and to keep that network going. And once again, thank you so much. Make sure that you're following our website, our social media, and following our news and updates. Oh, and one last thing. We will answer questions on our content in the following weeks, so be on the lookout for that as well. All right? Let's go! Before we go, what are we if not digital people? So what about a selfie? Is that okay? Yeah, let's just group here and maybe take a selfie? Yeah? A big selfie. Let's try it. Let's squish. Vem aqui. Vem aqui. All right. Everybody ready? 3, 2, 1. Yeah! Awesome. Thank you, guys.